Hey, what's up? My name is Billy Kyle. Welcome to Inner Revolution Astrology. You're going to want to stick around for the full video because at the end I'm going to add what I call street astrology, which is where I get out into the streets and I interview people and I take a look at their charts. So this is a little different, being like, hey, what's up? Do you want to talk about astrology for a couple seconds?
I always want to talk about astrology.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I have a lot of stuff in Sagittarius, so I think that's cool and also a lot.
A lot?
It's a lot to deal with.
What are some of the goals that you're aiming for, so to say?
Well, it's I do art, I do music.
Nice.
But I also have a small business, and I also want to start a podcast, and I also want to teach classes, and
nice.
It's more than one person can really do.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel a little schizophrenic or
yeah,
divided? Oh, I want to go in all these directions.
Yeah.
Need a quick comment about astrology. Are you interested in talking about it for a quick second?
Sure, why not?
What's your sign?
Cancer.
Do you know your different stuff, your sun, moon, rising?
Yes.
What are those?
My moon is Aquarius and my rising is also Cancer. My Mercury is Leo and my Venus is Leo. I originally got an actual reading from one of my friends who does astrology stuff because I play roller derby.
And I met a couple cool, interesting people on the street for this episode, and you'll want to stick around and check that out. Welcome to Inner Revolution Astrology. My name is Billy Kyle, and thank you very much for your support. The struggle of existence may seem inescapable as we tread the path, yet we defy the great inertia and choose to apprehend the wisdom of the stars and sands anyway. You have a power and greatness that must be understood at all costs. With mind and heart being equally sacred, together we shall find the way.
That thing's been buzzing for almost an hour. I thought you were dead. Aren't you supposed to open up the student store at 7?
Alright, so that comes from a movie called 3 O'Clock High. Pretty cool movie, made in 1987. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Buy it, rent it, whatever. It's about a kid named Jerry Mitchell in high school who has a very unexpected day, played by Casey Simasco. And yeah, check it out. Hey dude, what's the astrology aspects for February? Oh, let's find out. Good morning and good evening, everyone. It's a beautiful day in the cosmic and psycho-spiritual neighborhood. Let's just kind of warm things up and get things going and intro some of the general astrological aspects and alchemy that are at play right now and in the near future for 2025. Let's start with the lunar nodes, which just changed signs and in your charts possibly even changed houses. The north and south lunar nodes, known as Rahu and Ketu, recently changed signs. This occurs about every 1.5 years as they journey through an 18-year cycle. This new cycle started on January 11th, 2025, and will last until July 26, 2026. If we look at the nodes, we see that the north node is in the sign of Pisces and the south node is in the sign of Virgo. Let's go ahead and take a look at the different rulers or guides for Pisces and Virgo. The exoteric or traditional ruler for Pisces is Neptune. The esoteric ruler for Pisces is Pluto, and the hierarchical ruler for Pisces is also Pluto. With Virgo, the exoteric or traditional ruler is Mercury, the esoteric ruler or guide is the Moon, and the hierarchical ruler or guide is Jupiter. Some elemental and developing themes with this are the power of excessive change and the excessive change of power, the desire to seek out and consume new stories, communicate big ideas and messages, and abandon old ideas and information. This is an extremely spiritualizing time period. Outwardly, this may be expressed as confusion for individuals or around collective events which have a mysterious or hidden source, as in circumstances that make us question where did this come from or who actually did this. This may lead to erroneous projection of blame on outside sources or people. There's the danger of clinging to old, outdated beliefs and systems, as well as doing something solely based on peer pressure or what everybody else is doing. Also, confusion and the desire for deeper understanding and disclosure around new technological advancements and medicines will prompt topics around all things DNA and the duality of biological identity, including forensics, genetics, medicine, molecular biology, agriculture, archaeology, and bioinformatics. Things like genetic engineering, ancestry, and gender identity may be big topics. We may also see new archaeological discoveries. Old treasures or relics may be discovered via the Earth's permission and movement. We may see deep oceanic exploration. Only 20% of these vast waters have actually been explored. Are you selling something genuine? Are you selling others something hollow to get more likes or attention? We will see new waves of spiritual seekers emerge, those who recognize the necessity to cast off the superficial inclinations of the indwelling imposter, the ones who have a higher degree of soul alignment and integration, those who can pierce through the mirage of inflated self-importance and exhibit a genuine spontaneity in contrast to those who design premeditated praise, admiration, and recognition. For this report, for the month of February, we want to focus on these particular aspects. The new dead moon at 9 degrees 51 minutes of Aquarius. This is on January 29th on the Mayan day 6 wind. And then after that, we're going to have the full moon at 24 degrees 6 minutes of Leo. That'll be on February 12th on the Mayan day 7 Vulture. We're also going to be talking about the Mayan 13-day period of Quake, which is from January 24th to February 5th. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the Mayan cross-quarter burner day, which is the Mayan day for Sun within the 13-day period of Quake. And this is on January 27th, and I'll just highlight that really quick. So a burner day is just like a cross-quarter day, or it's a point of tension or where pressure builds up to that point. So leading up to January 27th, we may see things sort of surface, things come to a point of pressure, kind of a boiling over, or a culmination or a release, and that can be positive or negative. So we'll see kind of how that plays out, and it usually occurs within a few days prior to, the day of, or a few days after, just right in that kind of that zone. We will also be talking about Venus entering her shadow phase, which is basically pre-retrograde, the pre-retrograde phase. The shadow phase is the area where the planets will retrograde back to the point where it'll retrograde back to before it turns direct again, and then has to recover that ground. So Venus will enter her shadow phase on January 28th and then goes retrograde from March 1st until April 12th, 2025. And then Venus will finally leave her shadow phase on May 15th. So we have this window, this Venusian window, from January 28th, 2025 to all the way to May 15th, 2025. Then we also have Uranus stationing direct in Taurus on January 30th, and Jupiter on February 4th stations direct in Gemini. So these are the last times that these particular two planets, Uranus and Jupiter, will do a retrograde in the current signs that they are in. Now, when they move forward, they're going to be going into their next signs, and that's it. They're just in their next signs. So this is kind of like the final phase and the launch into new territory. It's like things are going to start picking up and moving forward. So Uranus will go into the sign of Gemini on July 7th, 2025. And then Jupiter will move into the sign of Cancer on July 9th, 2025. So July 7th, July 9th, that early period of July, that's also going to be significant for change, shifts, movement in new directions. Then we also, I want to highlight February 1st on the Mayan day, 9 snake, very powerful day. We have a Venus North Node Neptune conjunction in the sign of Pisces. So it's like this sets sort of this like signature tone, not only for the nodes, which just changed signs into Pisces and Virgo. So we have that North Node in Pisces. So it sets a signature tone there for that nodal journey through the sign of Pisces. And then it also sets a tone for Neptune, and Neptune's culmination of its journey through the sign of Pisces as it's getting ready to move into the sign of Aries. The Mayan 13-day period of Quake is a time of movement and change. This Mayan 13-day period of Quake is from January 24th to February 5th, 2025. This is a period where great change and movement can occur. At the center of the 13-day period is the dream and the vision. The point of completion is power, and so we may have visions and dreams of power at this juncture in time. A surge of power can result in effective results or disorientation and intoxication. The difference between calmly seeing and knowing the way or drunkenly drifting off course. Venturing into the unknown, into the abyss, and into the great heights and blissful, isolating peaks of consciousness. The path of spirit has never been a straight line. And just having a powerful vision or a dream changes the entire process of everything if one is willing to follow the path to its manifestation. Following the path requires the commitment to allowing magical action and decision-making, which finds its roots in the mysterious mirror worlds of potential and possibility. Magical action is doing something you never normally do or would consider doing. Taking action on something you have never thought to do before. Einstein, if you happen to see him as an authority, has said that you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. This is the same thing as saying you can't solve a problem at the same level as where the problem was created. You develop the solution at a higher level. And so finding a way to access what is called the higher and highest minds while detaching from what is called the concrete or lower mind is the method of finding the answer and inner assurance. If you take a moment to imagine that there are 1,000 of you doing 1,000 different things on 1,000 TV screens all at once, or even 1,000,000 of you in different timelines or dimensions, all playing out different stories all at once, likely there are an infinite number of different versions of yourself, each one of which is making totally different decisions, which in turn lead to totally different outcomes, experiences, and evolutionary paths. This is like taking the circle and twisting it into an infinity symbol. It is still just a circle, but now takes on a new meaning and changes the game and the possibilities. Instead of an endless looping repetition, a new crossroads is presented. The story can immediately change. This may bring up possibilities for quantum leaps and unbelievable transitions. The key is to remember that your choice is the unique ingredient in the recipe. Kind of like becoming aware of being in a dream while you're dreaming. Just as there are differences between the thinker, thinking, and thought, there's also a difference between the dreamer, the state of dreaming, and the dream or vision itself as a sum and an outcome. In a way, the thinker becomes the thought, and the thought then becomes the thinker, while the dreamer becomes the dream, and then the dream becomes the dreamer. The thinker and the dreamer, as the conduit, must become more and more aware of their ability and capacity by becoming familiar with different stages of attention and awareness. Through the sharpening of these skills and the deepening of one's relationship with the awareness and focused attention around the ability to create and to intend, the dreamer becomes fine-tuned in many ways and gains access to the dreaming body. The dreaming body, kind of like an energetic suit, is much more perceptibly fluid and can grant the wearer access to many new abilities and possibilities. The ability to see the world, the things of the world, and the otherworldly by having access to and utilizing more and more perspectives is what destroys old worlds and creates new ones. More perspectives equate to more and more shifts of the assemblage point. The assemblage point is the point where perception is assembled. But not only shifts of perception are required, but being able to remember and sustain those new perceptions. We can see this with a typical dream where we have some kind of scene or narrative occurring, and then when we awake, we cannot recall the dream or the elements of the dream. The finality of this period is symbolized by water in its most intense nature. And of course, water is associated with the emotional or astral body. And so this fractal period is about animation, as water and emotion are exactly what animate the human condition and bring it to life, giving it expression in its myriad of forms through arts, emotion, and all avenues of expression. And with this comes the challenge of deciding how much water or emotion to express or to inject into a form of expression. Too little will yield a state of rigidity and lifelessness. There will be a void of magnetism. Too much will drown the expression and leave it too charged for others to properly receive. The balance of water and or emotion is of crucial importance. During this time, we can think of the astral garbage disposal or the mental wasteland incinerator. Themes of sanitation, devouring, digesting, assimilation, and releasing that which has been referred to as sin, or anything that is out of balance. The definition of sin equals error, or a deviation or wandering away from truth, to persist in one's error, and so sin essentially equals doubt. This is the devouring of sin and the shadows of the heart. Sin has been referred to as the good which has outlived its usefulness, and so the sickness and unbalance created by shock can sometimes only be cured and brought back into balance by even greater shock. In an upside-down world, we experience many inverted truths, where the ideas of sickness and error are popular, propagated, and taught as the accepted normality of perception and an inescapable way of life. And then drive-through solutions and recipes are sold like slop to swine. And for those who are sensitive, I mean no offense, nor harbor any negativity towards swine, domesticated pigs, or wild boar. And I say this because I choose to see them, like all animals, as intelligent beings cohabitating the earth with us. And on that note, we really must expand our connections to the creatures of the earth and move away from the viewpoint that they are simply dumb or less important. It would also be a wonderful thing to move away from factory farming. This period shakes up the foundations through change, movement, and transmutation, and can invoke healing and sudden insight through shock, enlightenment, or revelation. The root origin and meaning of the word scavenger is a person hired to remove refuse from the streets, an official who originally was in charge of imposing a toll or collecting taxes on goods sold by foreign merchants, also meaning to inspect something, and so an officer that makes the streets clean by scraping up and carrying away the dust, dirt, and refuse. The modern sense of the word is one who gathers and consumes or puts to use that which has been discarded. And so this sounds like a good time for thrift store shoppers or those who are reviving and remaking something old. Also rehabilitating a person, animal, situation, or relationship that has been anything less than thriving and full of joy. Through whatever shape of manifestation this energy arrives, it is sure to be unexpected. To expect the unexpected is like the mother waiting to go into labor prior to giving birth. There is an invitation to practice fasting and cleansing at this time. Like a Uranus or Pluto signature, events can manifest like lightning or an earthquake. Rationality, order, and the preconceived must be abandoned and go to ruin. Out of that ruin and decomposition grows the most beautiful flower. This is the third eye in its destroyer phase, destruction on behalf of a higher construction. The Mayan 13-day period of Dog is from February 6th to February 18th. This is a time of subtle yet dramatic transformation, transmutation, and metamorphosis, like a fire in the darkness that will inspire 1,000 impossible quests, like a flickering torch in the cold night whose stories have outlived all of us. How can we see death within life? This period is perfumed by the essence of death, which spins and dances about in a garden of dream-shaped flowers. The earth's eyes crawl out of the dirt and stare. This is a good time to remember and honor the dead, calling for awareness around what is called the state of Bardo, the world between worlds, the connecting link between life and death, creation and the void, the word and the arrested soul. Reminding us of what is most important, death inspires us to play and create new forms, new paintings, new songs, new poems, new experiences, new loves, new devotions. Lassane Parish Crooks, known as Tupac Shakur, wrote, if you can't find something to live for, you best find something to die for. What is most important to devote yourself to, despite all worldly resistance, despite threats to one's status, reputation, or self-importance? Key themes of this period are devotion, love, self-sacrifice, companionship, and the ego. Again, if you have the time to check out Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which stars Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, and which was released in 1966, in many ways it reveals some of the core secrets of this Mayan 13-day period. Take a look at this moment in the film.
Jesus. Truth and illusion. Who knows the difference, eh? Toots? Eh, houseboy?
Truth and illusion, George. You don't know the difference.
No, but we must carry on as though we did.
Amen.
Truth and illusion. We must carry on as if we do not know the difference. The direct interplay and raising of awareness of our unique and peculiar human condition. There are connections to 2 of the 7 esoteric rays, to the 6th ray of devotion and idealism, as well as to the 4th ray of harmony through conflict. May you understand in the deepest part of your heart that this is not a dress rehearsal. There are no second chances. Focus now on confidence, trustworthiness, reliability, and fearlessly healing the heart. During the month of February 2025, we have the combination of the Mayan 13-day periods of Quake and Dog, along with the new dead moon in Aquarius, followed by the Leo full moon. This makes me think of the standout pool scene moment in the beginning of the movie Boogie Nights, which was directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, where Eddie Adams, played by Mark Wahlberg, and Reed Rothschild, played by John C. Reilly, are introduced at the wealthy California home of Jack Horner, played by Burt Reynolds. I like this scene simply because it begins with a 2-minute and 25-second one-take scene introduction, which is done impeccably. Then they have a few quick scenes, introducing more characters, and then start a second all-in-one shot scene, which lasts 2 minutes and 17 seconds, which then has the main characters Eddie and Reed in the pool.
Hey, Reed! Rito! I want you to meet the little boy on the street.
Reed initially takes on the role of the big brother or mentor in these scenes and takes this opportunity to one-up Eddie and gain his confidence. "I'll show you what you did wrong," Reed says authoritatively as he composes himself on the diving board to attempt a full flip into the pool. Reed launches himself but only completes 75% of the dive and lands flat on his back. Many of the others around the pool gasp while the camera then shows Reed's painful underwater expression as he slowly floats to the surface surrounded by bubbles. Through the submission to a new journey, energetic interaction and amalgamation create disturbance and synergy. Through their excited Leo-like competition, Eddie and Reed both create disturbances in the water. The heart is deeply involved and seeks union. By the end of the scene, it is clear that the roles will be reversed as the story unfolds. Reed will no longer be a lead, but a supporting role as Eddie becomes the main focus. Ultimately, there is an amalgamation of energy and a creative friendship is solidified. We can call the pool that Eddie, Reed, and all the other background characters are around the swimming pool of insecurities. Each person, whether already caught up in or being pulled into the industry of seduction, fame, intoxication, and glamours, are each searching for some kind of translatable meaning, depth, or assurance. But the road only ends up unveiling a darker labyrinthine world of emptiness and challenge. Each person being used like a mannequin for someone else's gain, or may we even dare to say, for some supernatural entity's gain. While Boogie Nights is an excellent movie on many levels, it in no way hints at the higher methods of using sexual energy or prana. Higher methods likely do not even exist in this worldview. It only portrays the lower levels of sex and its exploitation. The energy of February invites us to come from the heart and be our genuine selves, to be brave enough and engage in friendly competition, to compete or challenge oneself and test oneself each day, to be courageous enough to create synergy, bonds, and alliances with others who are on the same path or even different paths, no matter what those paths are or where they lead. It is either a time of destroying illusions or creating new illusions. But to do so, you must be the author. You must consciously write your own story. Otherwise, you will just be an automaton or a sleeping character that has been written by some other author into their story. All right, so let's jump in and check out some of the street astrology videos. I wanted to mention really quick that I forgot to ask the people that I interviewed, and I forgot to look up what their Mayan signs were. So I'm just going to go ahead and add them to the charts as we go ahead and watch the interview and look at the charts. And then I also just wanted to mention really quick that I thought it was a really interesting synchronicity that I realized post-filming the street astrology interviews, that Sam's Mayan sign is 9 death in the 13-day period of knife, and that Jade's Mayan sign is 9 knife in the 13-day period of dog. And so I just thought that was sort of a mathematical synchronicity that the first couple people that I ran into happened to be the numbers 9, and then the connection of the sign of knife in the 13-day period of knife. So let's jump in and check out the interviews. For today's street astrology, it's January 28th, 2025. And I just wanted to kind of like highlight, I'll put the chart up here for the aspects that are going on at the time of this street astrology episode. So we can see that it's not quite the new moon yet. We're like just at like the bottom, deepest end of the dark moon. So, you know, we're experiencing that kind of quiet kind of energy that's like still going, it's really coiling inward. It's preparing for that new moon energy. On top of that, the moon today sits right between the sun and then Pluto conjunct Mercury. So we have a moon, Pluto, Mercury conjunction today at 1 degrees of Aquarius. That can go a couple different ways. That can be either the blending of all three, the synthesis of all three, or it can also mean that the moon is temporarily blocking out the energy of the Pluto-Mercury conjunction. Okay? So we also have Venus at 24 degrees of Pisces, right between Saturn and Neptune. Saturn is at 17, so that's a bit loose. And then Neptune is at 27 degrees. And Venus is moving towards Neptune, right in between the two. And then, of course, Neptune is conjunct the North Node. And then if we look at the chart, you know, you can see some heavy trines going on. And got that septile there with Uranus. So let's just kind of see how this sort of adds to the energy of the field today, and maybe if there's any alignments or synchronicities with what people say or whatever. Also, depending on what their particular chart looks like. Need a quick opinion about astrology. Need a quick opinion about astrology. Are you like into astrology?
Not really.
Do you like, what is it that you dislike about astrology?
You know, I don't have time right now, sorry.
All right. Need a quick opinion about astrology. Are you like into astrology?
I dabble a little bit. I need to meet someone though.
You gotta go? You haven't heard? All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Are you guys like into astrology at all?
No, not so much.
No? Okay. Hey, how's it going, dude? Are you by chance into
Thanks, sorry.
yeah, alright, cool. Hey, what's up, dude?
I'm good.
Are you into astrology at all? Hey, what's up, dude?
Hey.
Need a quick comment about astrology. Are you into
I
that
am
stuff?
not, but thank
You're not? Okay. Do you hate it? So this is a little different, being like, hey, what's up? Do you want to like talk about astrology for a couple seconds?
I always want to talk about astrology.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Sweet. So my quick idea is to basically just like talk with people and be like, hey, what's up? You know, do you like astrology? Is it like something that's practical to you? Is it a little too woo-woo? Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then maybe even like for whoever's interested or willing, like look at the person's chart or like, you know, just ask a few questions. So I don't know if you're kind of like into that or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. You're welcome to tell your name or not. I'm Billy.
Okay. I'm Sam.
Because you're Sam. Okay, cool. You can make up a name, whatever.
Okay.
Thanks for kind of entertaining the idea.
Yeah.
I'm making it up as I go. So here's like Sam's chart, right? And obviously, so you're familiar with astrology. So
Yeah.
you're familiar with your own birth chart and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Cool. What do you like about like astrology, and then like what have you found like in your own chart that you think is pretty cool, and then stuff that maybe you don't like?
I have a lot of stuff in Sagittarius, so I think that's cool and also a lot.
A lot?
It's like a lot to deal with.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that. You have the moon, Saturn, Mercury, Uranus, the sun. Wow, that is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's super Sag. And just-
Rising.
And you have rising.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then ninth house. Nothing in the ninth house, but you know, whatever. It's a big ninth house, but that's pretty cool that you have freaking Saturn, Mercury, Uranus, and Sun conjunction all within like a couple degrees.
Yeah.
What do you like think about that?
I think
You've probably looked stuff up and stuff like that, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I focus on a lot of different projects and stuff. So,
What do you mean by that?
like, I have a lot of ambitions, like a lot of things I work on.
Oh, you have a lot of ambitions and
So it's like the
desires.
Sag is just like, my brain's like always going.
You don't have to be specific if you want to like be a little more anonymous about it, but like what are some of the like goals that you're like aiming for, so to say?
Well, it's like, I do art, I do music,
Nice.
but I also have like a small business, and I also want to start a podcast, and I also want to like teach classes, and
Nice.
it's like more than one person can really do.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel like a little schizophrenic or like
Yeah.
divided, like, oh, I want to go in all these directions?
Yeah.
What kind of business and what kind of podcast do you want to focus on?
Like in the realms of healing and self-care,
Oh,
and like
nice.
mysticism.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah.
you're kind of I kind of look at like astrology not as sort of a thing in itself. Like, you know, some people are like, oh, astrology, it's just, but I look at it as kind of like sort of a doorway or a gateway to a much bigger arena. Like, it's just a filter. It's just a language, a way to like interpret, and then it takes us to like a much bigger arena, which is like, you know, like a lot of the stuff you're talking about. So that's cool. So are there different kinds of healing or alternative healing that you're interested in that you're gonna do, or how does that work?
I think it's all just taking a lot of time to unfold. So I do herbalism, and I've done Reiki. Like, I've just explored a lot of different
Oh, very cool.
things.
Do you make your own tinctures?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So you know the stuff that's kind of good for you and the stuff that's not so good for you.
Yeah.
Stuff that does this and that.
Yeah.
Is that what's going to be part of your business?
Yeah, it's like kind of part of my business.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting in your chart. Maybe you've seen that before, but you have with all that stuff in Sag, and then you have not only you have Chiron, right? You familiar with Chiron?
Yeah.
A lot of people call him the wounded healer, the mentor, or whatever, the teacher. A lot about healing is like exactly opposite. Not exactly, not partile, but it's pretty much straight up opposite. That Sun, Mercury, Uranus, Saturn.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's that whole like it's a grand square that it makes between the nodes, and they say like it's kind of a big thing in this branch of astrology called evolutionary astrology, where they you heard of that?
I have heard of it.
Yeah, it's where they focus, and they say that like anything that's like square the nodes, the lunar nodes, is sort of they refer to it as like a missed step, or something that like emphasis should be put on. So those nodes at like 27 degrees of you got Virgo and Pisces are basically squaring all of that stuff, that Sun, Uranus, Mercury, Saturn. So that's like a kind of a buffet of stuff all in one to like focus on. So that's themes around Sagittarius are probably pretty important for you, or something like that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so what does the square mean? Well, you just kind of said it.
I think the key word with like the square is like creative tension, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe something that's challenging, but that also says that because it's challenging, it may yield more if you can like step up to it, or like kind of get a rein on it or whatever. It's not, it will yield more results if you're able to kind of like get to that, whatever that level or that ability of, that kind of idea.
Yeah, that resonates.
But it's creative too. It like demands sort of creative thinking or something like that. So, and that's all, I would say that's all like mutable energy, like Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. So it's very changeable.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if you change your mind a lot, but
yeah. I'm very indecisive.
One thing they say about Sagittarius is like in esoteric astrology, or it's mentioned, is like that sometimes Sagittarians will like symbolically want to draw the arrow in the bow. They get kind of pretty excited and they shoot the arrow, and then they go, oh cool, this too, I want to aim at that, I want to aim at, oh shit. So there's like distraction from focus or something like that.
So I'm just like running around trying to find the arrows.
Maybe. Maybe, or you're just shooting too many out there, and then like not fully like connecting with one in particular, or something like that.
That's something I've been working on. But I think it's interesting it's opposite the Chiron, because I resonate with the wounded healer archetype a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
In what way? Well, because you do the healing stuff.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool.
And the challenging things. Yeah, I've been in this long process of trying to basically make performance art.
Performance art.
And like be more embodied.
What would the performance art be like?
Well, I'm still figuring it out.
You mean like on a stage?
Yeah.
Moving around, speaking, music, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Just find a particular theme or something like that?
Well, I want to do many different things within that.
Okay.
Anyway, it's been like a huge challenge.
Yeah, another interesting one that you have is Mars conjunct Pluto in the 12th house. Maybe you've researched that too.
I haven't looked into like the conjunctions and stuff.
Yeah, they're all,
because I don't really understand that.
There's just a ton of different aspects. There's like conjunction, trine, square, all that stuff, and each of them kind of has a little bit of a different meaning.
So Mars conjunct Pluto?
Yeah, that could be intense. That sounds like it could be intense. Or it sounds like the thing that could give a person the ability to actually like take action on something, like, and not really like be hesitant or something like about it. Because Pluto's intense,
Yeah.
Right? You probably heard it. Pluto's intense. And Mars is like energy, activity, motion, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Those are pretty much like the traits.
And I have Mars in Scorpio, so
Yeah, they're both in Scorpio. And then, you know, some people talk about the 12th house.
yeah. And
I feel like people
intense.
give the 12th house a little bit of a bad rap,
Yeah,
and I'm not too into that.
totally.
I mean, I'm sure that could be a possibility, but I kind of see like the 12th house is like the place where those particular archetypes can be sort of like your treasure or your secret weapon or something if you do your time or research to sort of like get a hold on them. So it may be a little more of a challenge to get those particular things or energies or whatever you call them, like, but when you do, or if you will, actually everybody does, it's just a matter of like when. But like then it becomes like almost like a super trait or ability or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I just think of like depth.
depth,
Yeah.
right?
And just like transformation.
Psychology, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I put a lot of stuff like in this time period like having to do with like dreams or emphasis on dreams. It could be like regular dreams. It could be like far out ideas about dreams. It could be lucid dreams. Do you dream
Yeah.
about stuff? What do you think
Yeah.
about dreams since you're into this other stuff?
I think dreams are really important.
In what way?
They're just important to me, just the symbolism in them. And I don't know, it just gives me a lot of insight on like what I'm going through.
What you're going through?
Yeah.
Kind of get those like symbols in dreams and try to interpret them and stuff.
Yeah.
So like we usually think of like we go to sleep, we have a dream, and maybe it's a regular dream, maybe it's a lucid dream, right? And you wake up and either you remember it or you don't, or you take notes on it or whatever. Maybe it was like a lucid one where you really were aware. What do you think about also the idea that like just this, like right now, like whatever you call life or reality, that this could be a dream?
Yeah. It could
And like,
be.
what would that mean to you?
I don't know, maybe the dreams are reality and this is the dream.
They've mentioned, like, it's been mentioned in astrology, like, so Saturn usually is associated with reality and Neptune is usually associated with dreams. But it's also been said that those two, especially in today's age, should be, the definition should be flipped, meaning that like the reality is actually the dream or the construct, and the dream or that which seems to be elusive is the actual reality. It's just sort of hidden,
That's what's real.
out of sight. Is
Yeah.
that like something you would agree with,
Maybe.
or something like that? It's kind of
Yeah.
it's a little bit far out there idea.
Well, this is all constructed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it obviously is constructed realistically in one way.
Yeah.
But in another way, it's like, I mean, when you get into stuff like spirituality or religion, all the stuff through the ages that people have obviously focused on, whether there's been good or bad results, it all has to do with something that's like hidden or somewhere else, or that sort of the source is in like a different realm or something like that. Do you feel like whatever's going on in your life right now is a time of break up or break through, in the sense of like destroying illusions or stories of your life, and or creating new illusions or stories in your life? Is it like kind of one or the other, a little bit of a mix, or
Yeah, I feel like breakthrough
breakthrough?
Yeah.
A lot of breakthrough stuff?
and breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah. But like in a good way,
In a good way?
I think. Yeah.
So it's not like in a like, oh shit, this is horrible kind of way. It's more
Yeah.
like a little more positive kind
Yeah.
of vibe? That's cool.
Yeah. So breakthrough, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's positive.
Yeah.
How do you deal with your emotions, or what they refer to as the astral body? Like, what is your way? Because obviously, you know, emotions can sort of really take people out of themselves, or make you respond or get into situations that yield bad results in the immediate or later. So like, what's your kind of like strategy or wisdom or way of working with that? And you're a Sagittarius, so you kind of maybe have some distance or viewpoint on like how you deal with that kind of thing.
So how do I deal with emotions?
Yeah.
I just try to face them.
I mean, some people drink.
Yeah.
Some people smoke.
Okay.
Some people whatever, But even without those things, it's like, what's your kind of like?
I write.
Right. Okay.
And make art.
Channel.
Yeah.
Channel it. Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. What's shocking or surprising things do you think may occur in 2025? And obviously you can't just go like, oh, I think this, this is going to happen. But based on all the stuff that's going on, what are your thoughts about 2025, maybe even 2026, and like how that will develop, or even what do you want to see happen?
I mean, I want to see revolution.
Revolution?
Yeah.
In what way?
I just want to see more people wake up in this reality.
So what does that mean though? Define like what
Yeah.
wake up in this reality, or like what's the story?
Just like see the injustice and do something about it and feel it too. Like empathy.
For 2025 or 2026, like what could be some things that you or anybody or collectively can be done to like achieve that aim? You know what I mean?
I think just focusing on community, and I feel already this like I just feel like this more collective connection.
What would that like be though? Like what would that display as?
Yeah.
Or what would it not be? That a good way to like get at what you want, kind of like, creating a statue out of clay, is to like get rid of something from it. So like what would it not be? Like would it be like moving away from like being afraid of certain things, or what? Something like that.
Yeah, more like in real life connection.
Real life connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I think it's gonna look like all kinds of things.
What's your take on like drugs and alcohol and stuff that like intoxicates people?
I think people should do whatever they want.
Do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Okay. So no, you're kind of like
take whatever drugs they want.
Neutral on that.
Yeah, but I do think there should be more support for addiction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a thing called it's called the Assemblage Point?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
I don't think
it's
so.
a term in Carlos Castaneda books. You ever heard of that dude?
Yeah.
Right? Part of his thing is that he talks about, and there's so much that he talks about, but on that kind of, in that spiritual topic or conversation, he talks about a thing called the Assemblage Point, which he refers to as the point where perception is assembled. That, according to his terms, kind of like, you hear about, in Eastern stuff or energy medicine or whatever, like we have like an aura or a luminous energy field or whatever. Well, his kind of take is that there's a thing called the assemblage point, the point where perception is assembled, that is part of that energy field, kind of like people talk about chakras. And that depending on how it shifts or where in the energy body it shifts, that changes the person's perception. Kind of like, for example, like when you're just daily consciousness, you're just hanging out, walking down the street, drinking your coffee. That's different than, say, if you were to like smoke a joint or whatever, even alcohol, right? Those are artificial ways of shifting, obviously, like perception from one place to the next, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm telling you all this stuff, but you've never heard of what it is. But yeah, so
I'm gonna look it up.
But it's interesting because, like, if you apply other like natural methods, whether it could be exercise, can like create a shift, or chanting or meditation or whatever. Those are more like natural shifts.
Totally.
It's just basically a way to define like perception shifting.
Yeah.
And then if you think about, there's individual perception, like you can like go smoke a joint or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're going to have a different experience. Maybe you see something or feel something or think something, right? But it's kind of the idea of like what happens when collectively, like humanity as a collective, the entire perception shifts. And the only way that you can measure that or see that is in like different time periods. Like it's obvious if we think about right now and we go like, this is what it's like right now. These particular songs are popular. This way of dressing is popular. This being afraid of this is popular, or maybe not popular, just happening or whatever. And then you go back like 30, 50, 100 years, it's obviously way different, right?
Yeah.
Even the language. So that's kind of like an interesting topic.
Yeah.
That I'm sort of interconnecting with dreams and illusions and all that kind of interesting stuff. Yeah, you have that Mercury right in there in Sagittarius amongst all that other stuff, so you communicate probably in a very kind of open or aspiring way, I guess. Obviously, you stop to talk to me about all this crazy stuff, so.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk about astrology.
What's that?
I can't resist. I'm always down to talk about astrology.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, I think it's just collective consciousness. That's all I wanted to say. Or like one being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting when collectively there's a major shift in perception.
Yeah.
And then things like move in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like where you get different cultures that blossom, or different movements like in the 60s, or I guess any time period, like even the early 1900s was a thing, or the 1700s, so you know, it's kind of interesting stuff.
It is. Well, how do I find your stuff?
Okay, so if we're gonna,
I'd love to see it.
So basically I just have like a YouTube channel. I'm kind of just getting started. I have some videos up there, but then I also gonna do all the other stuff like Instagram and whatever.
Yeah.
Tell you.
Okay.
So.
Inner Revolution.
Yeah. I'm calling it Inner Revolution Astrology.
Cool.
But it's sort of just, like I said, it's like a springboard to basically talk about a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not just about astrology. Astrology is just sort of like a way to get to other stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, all the astrology things I've listened to, it's like a big year of change.
A big,
But like not necessarily all bad. Like, like good change too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mixed,
like
but
change.
you know, since 2020 was huge, and then you know, even 25, 26 and 27 are pretty big, but obviously 25 leads to that.
Yeah.
So a ton of stuff going on, and you know, a lot of stuff people are going to be talking about astrology as things develop. So so we'll see.
Helps me make sense of things.
Well, it's good to like officially meet you, Sam.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe I'll hang out a little bit longer, see if anybody else is crazy enough to talk to me, or if I'm crazy enough to try to keep talking to people.
I mean, I'd be down to do it again.
Cool.
I have more thoughts.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, maybe we could have each other on our podcast.
There you go. That'd be cool.
Yeah. If
Awesome.
I ever start mine.
Yeah. Do it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Just take the time and like figure it out and just go for it.
It's on the list.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah. Cheers, Sam. Thanks.
Have a good one.
Yeah. You too. Bye. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at Sam's chart and the current transits that are applying to Sam's chart. I really wanted to add the progress chart for both Sam and Jade, but we might be able to dive into that in the future and check that out in a further episode. So for Sam's chart, it's pretty interesting. If we look at the chart here, I would say that the major transits that just stand out right off the bat is that we have Pluto that just moved out of Sam's second house and into the third house. So that's like that's one of those big kind of transformational things that you apply in a chart. moving from one house to another, and a planet like Pluto that's very powerful and moves extremely slow. So that could be said to be bringing quite a bit of changes for Sam in the area of the third house. And then we want to look at over here, we have this Saturn, Venus, Neptune, and the North Node all within the fourth house. And there is this conjunction that's happening in the transits. We have Venus conjunct Neptune, conjunct the North Node, and they're basically like right on top of Sam's natal North Node. So that's just like a ton of energy that's applying to the natal North Node in Sam's chart, which is pretty interesting. So, I didn't really get to ask and bring up this specific thing in the field, and I'll work on bringing up transits a little bit more in street astrology interviews in the field. But I'll just note that this Venus-Neptune North Node conjunction right on her natal North Node just can symbolize a very interesting, maybe yet confusing time, but a beautiful and transformational time. It could also mean moving into more connected dynamics with spirits, all things Venusian and Neptunian. And, she mentioned that in what she talked about was the interest in going into healing, alternative healing, art, dance, and so on. And so maybe this is the opening of that path for Sam. I also wanted to note the Chiron in Aries is exactly conjunct and connecting with Sam's natal Jupiter, which is at 19 degrees of Aries. So in this transit with Chiron, it can mean expansiveness, healing, new insights on how to take action and move forward with some of the desires and aspirations that Sam mentioned in the video. So kind of interesting, just do a couple quick little notes on that. Please feel free to leave your insights, comments, the chart's up so you can take a look at it. Thank you, Sam, for allowing us to take a look at your chart. I need a quick comment about astrology and kind of like, how it works and like if you're into it. Have you ever gotten into astrology?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you familiar with it at all?
Yes.
Are you interested in talking about it for a quick second?
Sure, why not?
So, have you ever looked up your own astrology chart?
Yes.
You have. What's your sign?
Cancer.
Cancer. Do you know like your different stuff, like your sun, moon, rising?
Yes.
What are those?
My moon is Aquarius and my rising is also Cancer.
Do you know all your other stuff?
I know most of them, I think. My Mercury is Leo and my Venus is Leo. My Mars is Libra. And I think that's the extent of what I know. I had a friend do a reading a long time ago and I don't remember anything about the houses. I just remember like vaguely where everything is placed.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
Cool. So let's see. So anyway, yeah, like what's your kind of thought about that? Or what do you know about astrology and how do you feel about your chart personally?
I originally got like an actual reading from one of my friends who like does astrology stuff because I play roller derby, and she was like investigating sort of like how astrology like impacts like competitiveness and play style and like personalities like on teams and things like that. So is that like maybe a lot of stuff to do with Mars? Yeah, so like that when my friend did that, they were focusing a ton on like the Mars in Libra, and they talked to me about how that means like a yearning for fairness, or like balance.
Sure. Yeah.
In terms of like, and I see that like when I get competitive, I'm very like it like everything has to be very fair.
Do
and,
you
like,
feel pretty competitive when you do play?
Yeah.
Sports?
Oh yeah. I'm extremely competitive.
Nice. So yeah, I've always had the thought with like, or one of the thoughts of Libra is like you said, like peace or balance. What did you say? Fairness?
Yeah,
fairness.
like fairness.
Right, fairness. Justice, fairness, balance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Libra scales. But it's always the question of like, what will Libra do to achieve that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what combativeness, or I don't want to use the word war, but we can use the word war. What will Libra do to achieve that equality, that fairness, that balance?
Yeah.
The version of esoteric astrology, Uranus is the like guide or ruler of Libra, whereas normally, you know, Libra is Venus, right?
Yeah.
That's the exoteric kind of ruler or whatever. What other stuff did you get to like learn from the looking into your chart?
I know that I remember talking about like Mercury as it comes to like communication and how that's connected, and I remember talking about like, you know, Leo being in Mercury and how that like, I mean, sometimes I can be like more outgoing, like communicator and things like that.
Like, is it like the stereotypical like way of looking at Leo, like center of attention kind of, or something else?
I think it was more in terms of like when they were reading it, they were talking about how I don't I'll share my opinion very freely, and I'll be like pretty open about things, and like
that's good though.
Things like that.
I mean,
so.
Do you see that as good?
I mean, I see it as good.
Cool. What you know, without really thinking too much about it, or even basing it on anything particular, astrology, whatever. Like, what kind of things, be it like surprising, shocking, positive, negative, do you think we might see in 2025 or even 2026? And you could base that just off of either what you want or what's going on like right now, or you can just kind of whatever comes to mind without thinking too much about it. And that's basically because, like, you know, with all the stuff that's been going on, you know, whatever you want to call it, whether it's you know, political or wars or divisiveness, a lot of that, like, really, I think, draws people into that left brain analytical, which is very divisive. And so, you know, talking about like astrology and then thinking of ideas of like what may come to be, more from like a right brain kind of, you know, aspect. So I mean, what kind of comes to mind when you think of that?
I think like the thing that really comes to mind is like tension, and not just like.
You think we'll see more tension?
I think that we'll feel more tension, like interpersonally, like, because I think that when things happen, like when events happen, when there is tension, like away from, like, it trickles down, so it's gonna like come down into like that interpersonal sort of relationships, and that, like, you know, sometimes you can even like feel it when you're like, wow, everyone is like really road ragey more than usual, or maybe it's just me like perceiving that. But
do you see that a lot?
I feel like, yeah, I feel like more recently.
So you think things are kind of like on an incline or decline from here going forward? I mean, obviously, like I said, a lot of people are like, you know, feeling stuff, what's going on, but like just sort of in general and loosely, like, I don't know, what do you think?
I feel like we're gonna have a dip before it gets better. It's gonna get a little worse.
You think so? Yeah. What does that mean to you? And we don't, I mean, like I said, it doesn't have to necessarily be politics, but like, what is that?
I think it's just as like, to me, what I'm thinking more is just like the way sort of that tension manifests into like feeling a lot worse before we like figure out how to dispel it in like a healthy and productive way.
Do you feel like you have good ways of kind of like dealing with that yourself? What are the different ways that you kind of deal with that? Do you use astrology to like work through some of that stuff as you move through it, kind of thing?
I think sometimes I am like, I like looking at astrology because sometimes it's nice to be like, I do relate to that, or I feel like connected to that. Especially just like those, like, I will look at like an occasional like daily reading, or like an Instagram astrology person, and be like, yeah, you know what? I do feel connected to that.
Do you feel like it helps? when you see some of that stuff, like astrology?
I think so, yeah, just because it's like feeling connected to something that is like more of a unifying force.
Yeah. There's that old term in Latin, know thyself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that kind of mean to you? Especially, we talked about some of that Mars energy. Or what does that mean to you, know thyself?
I think it means just like having the forethought to be introspective. And like, even because I don't think anyone can perfectly know themselves at any given point in time.
Yeah.
But I think it's like the knowledge and the want.
Kind of a mystery.
Yeah, the want to solve the mystery.
Nice.
Just knowing.
What in your chart do you either like or not like? Did we ever kind of cover that?
No, I mean, I feel like, I don't know if there's anything I don't like. I think sometimes I'm in conflict. There is like parts of myself that are conflicted that I know that like are reflected as conflict in my chart.
Well, you have, with the sun in Cancer in the 12th house. But you're like, hey, yeah, I'll stop and talk about astrology. So I feel like if you went by like kind of cookie cutter terms, like people would be like, oh, she's got the sun in Cancer in the 12th house. She's probably not gonna really like stop. She's probably gonna want to just be like, I gotta go, or like be in the shell or something like that. So there's you feel like a little bit of disagreement with that cookie cutter kind of term.
Yeah, because I would say because I mean, I did walk by someone earlier where I was like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to like keep my head down and keep walking.
Oh, for sure. What were they doing?
I think they were just asking about like, giving information for some cause or something, and it was just like,
yeah, like ACLU or something.
Yeah,
like
I got stuff in my hands. I got to go. I'm like moving.
Totally. Well, I kind of put down a bunch of different questions that I was like, okay, I could ask people that are sort of related. What I think is either related to like kind of the energy going on, and or what might just be interesting for people to kind of like talk about in relation to astrology. Do you kind of see like this period of time right now for you personally, but I guess even collectively, as a time of break up or breakthrough? Like, how's that kind of playing out for you?
I feel like I am more in like a breakthrough sort of part of my life where, I mean, I don't want to be in the break up part. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, and I feel like more of a breakthrough just because I'm sort of in that, like, I'm in a good headspace for it right now. I'm in a good headspace to be like determined and motivated.
So is there like a lot of change going on for you?
Oh, buckets.
Oh, tons. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're saying you kind of have a positive kind of feel vibe about how you're dealing with it.
Yeah, I used to be sort of more of like a negative person about change, but now I am trying to really accept that like change is inevitable.
Sure. And
move towards like that mindset.
So in your like astrology chart, is there anything in your chart that you feel like is helping you with that, or that helps you get through stuff like that?
Yeah, I think to me, like a lot of the Leo in my chart, I feel like, at least to me, represents more of like that like outgoing and positive and like take life by what it's giving me energy, and just like, kind of dealing with it in like more of a like an outgoing way.
Do you feel pretty like assertive with like doing what you want, going after what you want, or like taking care of things, or do you feel like more with like drawn when you have to like confront stuff, deal with stuff, things that would normally like you would do well to utilize that Leo 9 energy or whatever?
I feel like I'm very assertive and like kind of a go-getter in a lot of like in like my career way and like in a very like outward way, but it anything interpersonal, I tend to start shrinking back, where I'm like, I should push forward,
right? And
then I'm like, no, let's go hide in the shell.
Okay.
And kind of block it out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what about astrology do you feel like is practical, tangible, like applicable in daily life? Like, is there something that you feel kind of like works like that?
I think like I know a lot of people have like a lot of doubt about it, but I think that to me, like the most practical way that I've experienced it in life is just sort of that way of finding like an immediate connection with people.
Yeah.
Like either because they also like astrology and it's something that like both of us are using as like a way to, you know, connect with like ourselves in the world, or as like I meet other people with my same sign or similar pieces of chart and we're like, oh, we do connect on these like weird ways that we could connect to astrology. That like, you know, I've met a lot of Aquarius moons.
Okay.
And all of us are like we have a lot of like same patterns of thought where we're like, oh yeah, we think about things the same way.
In a particular way.
Yeah, like
do you feel like that sort of like lines up? It's like a synchronicity, or it's just like, oh, is it just like you think it's just like your circle of friends, and so you think like similarly because of that?
I think it's maybe like a synchronicity. It's like sometimes it's people that I'm not particularly like close with.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, oh yeah, we kind of sort of have a similar like problem solving or thought process.
Yeah.
To get from point A to
yeah,
point B.
I've noticed that. I feel like it does definitely show up, you know, if you know people's charts and you kind of know like, oh, okay, that's what their chart is. They actually do exhibit some of these kind of traits, or it's interesting that they do this or they think like that. So it's kind of cool. There's a Venus retrograde coming up. Today, I believe, is the first day of Venus going into its shadow phase. You familiar with that?
I have heard people talk about it, but I actually don't know anything about retrograde.
So Venus goes into any planet when it goes into its shadow phase. That's the precursor to the actual retrograde. And then once the planet goes retrograde, then what it does is it goes backwards visually, as we're looking at it, to the point where it first started going into its shadow. And then it turns direct, and it continues forward back to the point where it turned retrograde. So that part right there is like the shadow. So it's like Venusian themes in connection with retrograde we may start kind of seeing. And I think it lasts like all the way until May before Venus goes direct and then leaves its shadow. Do you feel like there's going to be anything, maybe collectively, maybe even individually, that comes up that's like has to do with Venusian, strong Venusian energy, feminine energy, or even the Maya? The Maya considered sometimes Venus to be warlike, depending on which phase she was in. They call it, there's two different names for it, but basically it just translates to either the evening star or the morning star. And so it's kind of interesting in that way too. But like, what's your kind of take on like, you know, I think I kind of already asked you about 2025, 2026, but like, what's your take kind of on that if you bring kind of like that into the equation, and like things that kind of like are, you know, surrounding the feminine or Venusian qualities, like over say the next like 4 to 6 months? And your answer can be intuitive. You don't have to, like, if something just sort of comes to mind, it doesn't have to necessarily be like think about it really hard or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I would like, nothing comes to mind in particular. I'm trying to think of like, you know, it sort of is aligning with the way that like springtime comes about. So like to me, what I think of is the way that like perhaps this like spring and growth and like blossoming will feel like stronger, or maybe like more.
Do you mean like in a breath of fresh air, like like something positive is around the corner?
I think like in that sort of breath of fresh air, like, you know, it's gonna feel better once everything starts that like regrowth after winter. What
kind of like work do you do, and then what kind of things for fun do you do?
I'm a teacher.
Those all sound like very Cancerian kind of vibes.
Think it would be a headache, but like I followed the career path because I really wanted to do it. Like,
so there you have heart in it.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like,
nice.
Every day I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Even if it's hard, I still think it's the best thing ever.
You still think this what?
It's the best thing ever.
Nice. Teenagers, kids these days.
Yeah.
probably just like a whole different theme going on for them than
Yeah.
like our different generations. Do they seem positive? Do they seem down, bummed out, or do they seem like, like for the future? Because, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience and like other friends' experiences and like recalling different periods of school, but like there's just so many different things going on nowadays. So it's interesting to think about like how that might actually be like affecting youth.
I think like in general,
Especially because they had to deal with 2020 and all that stuff,
I think that they are more generally down, but I also think that it's like everything is a joke until they figure out what it really is.
What do you mean by that?
I think that it's easier to joke about what the future could be because it's an unknown than it is to like worry about it or like think super highly of it.
Sure. Well, do you think that that's a symptom of what's been going on, or do you feel like that's just a normal thing for somebody that's like in their youth to like approach it?
I think it's both like a normal thing, like a normal and like healthy way to approach things, but also maybe I think it's partially a symptom of like just like the heavy onslaught of like news and information,
right? And
like sometimes all you can do is kind of like make a joke about it and move on rather than like spend a lot of energy working through each piece.
Is it do you work with public or private?
Public.
Well, that's cool. So that's even different. That's like just yeah.
And for fun I play roller derby, and then I do like a lot of like crafts. Very
cool.
Like crafty reading, kind of like homebody sometimes.
But it's good to meet you, Jade.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, Billy Kyle. So
Nice to meet you.
yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Take it easy. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at Jade's chart and the current transits that are going on in Jade's chart. Thank you, Jade, for letting us take a look at your chart and doing the Street Astrology interview with me. So in Jade's chart, a couple things that I pointed out really quickly just at first glance. The first one, again, was Pluto. And Pluto moving... It's another house scenario where Pluto is at 2 degrees, and it's basically conjuncting Neptune. She has Neptune at 3 degrees of Aquarius in her chart. So that's kind of a big, powerful transit. And then we have Pluto is within the next couple of years, within the next year, 2 years, and it's back and forth retrograde motion. We'll be switching from the 7th house. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, I'm wrong. Nope, I am right. We'll be switching, Pluto will be switching from the 7th house to the 8th house. And that's like, a huge move in itself. We could say that Pluto moving into the 8th house is like confronting power, confronting powers that are beyond oneself, moving into the area of love, relationship, money, the sharing of power, the sharing of money, the sharing of resources. You could go into a lot of things with these transits, but I just want to cover a couple of the things that stand out. Again, feel free to leave insights and comments on what you see in the chart. Another one that kind of stood out right off the bat is that we have Saturn currently in Pisces, and it's basically almost exactly aspecting the midheaven in her chart, if you look at that way up top, where that arrow is pointing to the top. So we have a Saturn transiting the midheaven and about to move into the 10th house. So this could be challenges. This could be challenges transcended. This could be new career paths. And along with the challenges, it could open up new potential for making more money, doing something different, or maybe Jade comes into an insight with what she really wants to do. Maybe she has other things that make her happy, or she feels a calling to other things with work in the world, or maybe taking what she does. She says she does teaching to a higher level with her work in the world. And so Jade can see what happens with that. Maybe it'll be a raise. Maybe it'll be something positive with that. Saturn is always challenging us to get things right, take it to the next level, find all the weak links in the chain, so to say. It's kind of an upgrade time. So it comes with challenges, but if you face those challenges, it can yield great results. I'm sure with street astrology videos, as I go forward, I will get more in depth with people's charts and transits and even progress charts. So, my name is Billy Kyle. I am a musician, writer, philosopher, and practical mystic. I am an astrologer practicing Western, esoteric, Mayan, and evolutionary astrology, while also pioneering new methods and synthesis. If you would like to support my work and contributions, please do so through my Inner Revolution Patreon page. Thank you donations via the Buy Me a Coffee link are also highly appreciated. I am available for various types of astrological chart readings and can be contacted through email, Patreon, and Instagram. I encourage you to leave comments with your own insight as well as feedback about my video content, as we are all one community gathered together in the middle of this great flowing river of life, beautifully diverse and connected beyond reason. Liking this video, subscribing to my Inner Revolution Astrology channel, and clicking on the bell icon so that you can receive notifications of future videos will greatly help and are much appreciated. Thank you, and at your highest may you be.